want to feel safe, and they need that sense of well-being.
Yes.
And I forgot to ask you this, while a person is in jail who has committed this crime, how is it that the victim is made aware of, for example, he's being transferred from this facility to this facility, he's going to trial, so he'll be in Baton Rouge, or how are those notifications made?
There is a yellow form called Lavins that victims fill out that notifies them of when a transfer is made, even once post-conviction, if a person is transferred to another facility, or if an appeal process comes up, or if something happens to that inmate prisoner, they are notified. If something by any chance, because there are sometimes you have mishaps, we will still notify that person, especially if we know for a fact that this family members definitely want to stay contacted afterwards, anytime they want to know any little thing. We're going to make sure that they know, whether it's us or that system, because the system sometimes it has its flaws. Like I said, it's just an answering machine that calls the person. We will double check and make sure they were notified, any type of transfer or anything like that.
Very good. So tell me, this week that y'all are having, have y'all planned out on who you're going to have speaking, or what
yet. We're still
activities are going to be
trying
going on? I can put a plug in for our past guest. I think he did a good job. I think he'd be a great speaker for y'all.
He did, and my supervisor actually told me, like, hey, let's put a plug in for him. Maybe we can get him to come back. We haven't pinpointed who we will be inviting as a speaker, because every year we rotate as far as what type of victim we invite. Last year we had the family members of the Trucco Stampley case. Okay. They spoke at
where does this take place?
Downtown. Last year we did it in the new courthouse, and we sometimes do it in the jury room. This year we're going to stay in this area. We don't know if we want to utilize our beautiful landscaping that has just been redone, or if we're going to put it back inside the courthouse again, just because of the weather, so we're still trying to get those little details and trying to do that really quickly.
Well, great. Well, that's something that I think a lot of people can get a lot of benefit from. So yes. We thank you for being here today. I appreciate it. Thank you. And we're going to go to a break, but up next is going to be Judy Benitez. She is the new director of the Capital Area Family Violence Intervention Center, and she'll be joining us after the break. Hi, and welcome back. We're joining us now is Judy Benitez. She is the executive director of the Capital Area Family Violence Intervention Center. Welcome, Judy.
Thank you.
Nice to see you. So tell us a little bit about yourself. You're the new director.
I am. I started on February 1st, and that was after 20 years as the executive director of Louisiana Foundation Against Sexual Assault, which is the federally recognized state sexual assault coalition for the state of Louisiana. So I worked 20 years in the sexual assault arena, and now I'm switching over to the sort of a sister issue of domestic violence.
And when we talk about the services that are provided for victims in our city, you guys do a yeoman's job of providing those services. Can you tell us a little bit about what goes on over there?
Certainly. Well, of course, there's the emergency shelter, and we also have a 24-hour, 365-day-a-year crisis line by phone. And this is not just for East Baton Rouge, but also the surrounding parishes, West Baton Rouge, East and West Feliciana, Point Capee, Iberville, and Ascension Parish as well. But our main office, obviously, is here in Baton Rouge. We also provide counseling and advocacy for survivors, information and referral, legal services, outreach services to the outlying parishes, and also prevention programs for the community.
And when you mentioned legal services, y'all provide legal representation to victims of domestic abuse. Is that correct?
Yes, but it's very limited in scope because of course, we can't do everything that we would like to be able to do. So it is limited to helping survivors with applications for protective orders. So that is a little bit more limited than we would like it to be. At some point in the future, it would be wonderful to be able to broaden that out a little bit. And I think in certain specific cases, there is an opportunity to do that. It just depends on what the situation is. But I know that the attorneys have their hands full just with the protective orders.
And when it comes to a child that's being abused potentially by a family member, that's when that type of legal service can really come in handy.
Well, yes, it would really depend on the circumstances, because when we talk about domestic violence, we're talking about usually someone who's being abused by their partner, and that can be male and female victims, male and female offenders, but it's usually a female victim and a male offender. And there may or may not be children involved, and the children may or may not be also being abused. If it was simply a situation of the child being abused, they probably wouldn't come necessarily to our attention, but it would probably go to a similar agency such as CASA, the Court Appointed Special Advocates, or a similar group that works exclusively with child victims. But a lot of the women who come into shelter or who avail themselves of other services that are offered by our agency do have children, dependent children, and they do end up being served. Also, we have children's advocates at the shelter as well.
I see. And the 24-hour crisis line, what is that for any type of crisis, or is that particularly for?
It's specific to partner violence, domestic violence, dating violence, that sort of thing.
Right. Do you do any outreach with LSU or Southern University?
Well, you know, I just started on February 1st, so there's many things that we're planning to do. We have worked in the past, I know, with LSU and Southern, and that's certainly dating violence is an issue on campus, and probably some domestic violence as well. Of course, I say dating violence because of the age of traditional students, but of course there's always a lot of non-traditional students as well these days on campuses. So that could certainly be, you know, an area that the campus community could use some assistance with. Of course, they also have their own services for crime victims on campus as well at LSU.
Right. And the shelter that's operated, how is that staffed and maintained?
Well, I'm not sure I follow what you mean. It's staffed 24 hours a day.
Okay.
And we have a director of residential services who coordinates the folks that work there. And there are resident assistants and women's advocates and children's advocates who are there to help people with the different aspects of what they might need. Some of the more concrete things, like needing to make sure that they have baby diapers and that sort of thing. And then also looking to the resources in the community, depending on whether someone needs job training or if they need some sort of long-term counseling that they need to be referred to, or assistance with finding housing that's safe. So it's really just depends on what the needs are of the particular survivor and her children, if there are any.
And I was sort of giving you the opportunity to put a plug in. If you need volunteers or if you need assistance in any other way, how can people who want to help with this program, how can they help you?
Well, you know, that's interesting that you would say that. There are certain things that people might want to do that are the standards that we have to follow for state and federal regulations actually prohibit us from having them do. For example, answering the crisis line is a task that has to be done by paid staff, and that has to do with training issues and liability, and you know, there's the potential for lethality in a lot of these situations. So it really is something that you wouldn't want to have a volunteer kind of panic at a critical moment like that, and so that's something that has to be done by paid staff. But there are other opportunities for volunteers, absolutely. Anything from, you know, helping with administrative work to talking in the community. There are opportunities for volunteers to help, and we're really working on putting together a menu of what some of those options or opportunities might be, and for which ones folks would need to go through the required 40 hours of training, and which ones they really wouldn't have to, because their interaction with clients would be limited with survivors of domestic violence.
And the shelter, it also houses not only the abuse victims, but also the children.
There's dependent children, yes.
Mm-hmm. Now, as I understand it, there's going to be there's going to be a name change. What's the new name of this?
This is hot off the presses, so to speak. The name is changing on March 1st, and the board of directors decided to do that because the agency's been known by several different things over the years. It's been known as Capital Area Family Violence Intervention Center is the legal name, but a lot of people shorten it up to the Battered Women's Program. And so to make sure that we just have one name that we go by, it's going to change to Iris Domestic Violence Center. And when we were speaking about this earlier, you said, well, was that Iris? Was that someone? And that's the whole point, is that it could be someone. But it's also a flower that's indigenous to the area, that's purple, and that is, you know, that's the domestic violence awareness color, and it's very resilient. So that was where the name change came from, or the new name came from.
Great. Well, thank you, Judy, for joining us today. I very much appreciate it. Again, this is John Delgado. This is the John Delgado Show. I want to thank all of our guests for joining us today. The show will be broadcast on Tuesday nights at 8:30 and again on Sunday nights at 9 p.m. If you have any questions for any of the people that spoke on the show today or any questions for my office, please do not hesitate to contact me at 389-4697, 389-4697. Thank you very much.